Welcome to the Capture Consulting Offers workshop series Kickoff. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to work with the University of Chicago Graduate Career Development Office and the PhD and postdocs that are going to be participating in our workshop series. This is a great privilege for me. I'm extremely excited about it. Over the years that I've been focused on career development and consulting preparation, I've had a chance to work with a number of advanced degree candidates, and it's been great fun, and we've had some great success. And I think also what's so exciting about this opportunity is that today in the consulting environment, there's an increasing desire and need for candidates that hold advanced degrees within the major consulting firms. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to bring some really exciting new candidates to the consulting market. So I'm looking forward to our time together, and I think that you will gain some valuable insight through these videos of some of the context for our workshop series. And really my purpose with these videos is to lay out a bit of introduction and to establish some context and foundation as we go into the workshops. The workshops are going to focus on interview preparation, but the more context and background we have, the more that the understanding of why we're doing this level of preparation will become clear. As we kick off the Capture Consulting Offers workshops, I want to lay out what some of the goals for the sessions are and what your expectations should be after each of these sessions. One of the things that I begin with is laying out a clear understanding of what I call the consulting bar is and what the lay of the land is like. What that really means is it's important to have a strong understanding of what it takes to get a consulting offer. It's a competitive job search. There are numerous fantastic candidates that all have great credentials and pedigrees and levels of intelligence. But there's plenty of opportunity for a variation and a variety of professionals. But in order to be successful, you have to really understand how competitive it is. And that's one of the key things that we want to lay out at the start. The second goal then for the workshops is to really give you a clear strategy and plan of attack. The consulting industry has evolved today. By 2016, there are many more services and offerings and areas of focus that the consulting firms are pursuing. This enables a wide variety of professionals to really find their focus within a firm. There absolutely is room for the individual that wants to be a generalist, but certainly there are also roles for those that have some area of expertise and specialty. So really thinking about that and honing your focus can be a key ingredient for success. And then the plan of attack is really building the roadmap that's necessary to pursue the interview process and do so successfully. The third goal then is to really help you define and execute your interview preparation. Looking at the consulting interview process, it is multifaceted. Understanding the firms and the kind of work that they do, meeting professionals through various networking activities, thinking about the case interview and being able to work through those problems in a real-time setting, and then also being able to successfully talk about your experience and your background in a highly effective way. There's more involved than you often anticipate at the start. And time again, when I talk with students after the process has been completed, they say that it was a lot more work than they ever thought going in. But if you do the right levels of preparation and you're able to juggle those activities, success is absolutely possible. The goal overall as a candidate is to really establish your competitive advantage, to create for yourself an understanding and a level of preparation, and be able to speak to the consulting firms with a high degree of effectiveness. So that's what we're going to embark on through these sessions. As you consider the goals for our workshop, I think one point that I want to make is that we're going to be having specific instruction and discussion around what's necessary for an advanced degree candidate. There's a great deal of overlap across the interview process between undergraduates, MBAs, and advanced degree candidates. But without question, there are some unique aspects to the interview process for advanced degree candidates. So, throughout the workshop series, one of the things that I'll be doing is speaking to the overall elements of interview preparation. And then we'll have a drill down discussion on what is necessary as an advanced degree candidate. What are some of the additional or different elements to your interview preparation that are going to be necessary given the process and given the evaluation of your candidacy? To begin, I just want to introduce myself and my background to give you an understanding of the perspective that I bring. So, over the course of the last 25 years, I have worked in and around a variety of settings. It begins fundamentally working in the corporate and consulting environment. My roles have included technology companies, consulting firms, and various analytic responsibilities that enabled me to be in positions to help drive strategy and establish programs and projects and initiatives that were moving organizations forward to be more competitive, both from a product and a operational perspective. In doing so, that means that I have been in your chair. I've been a student interviewing for these roles. I've been an experienced professional interviewing for experienced consulting hired roles. And along the way, I gained a tremendous amount of insight from my own perspective. But certainly, I also have the perspective sitting on the other side of the table. I was involved with recruiting and hiring, consulting, and corporate roles, and really understanding what differentiates one candidate from another, and being involved in the decision process to make offers. After spending numerous years in that role, I decided that my interest was really helping professionals advance their careers. In doing so, I decided to step into the academic environment and pursue career coaching as well as teaching. So, through that, I've had experience working in Chicago Booth's full time MBA career office. And then for the last 8 or so years, working independently with a variety of schools and individuals. Through this, on an annual basis, I do hundreds of coaching appointments and talking with students and professionals. I look at dozens of resumes every year and spend time doing mock interviews. And through this, I see patterns. I see the various elements that students and professionals incorporate in their interview preparation to be successful, the way that they speak and talk about their experience. And these case studies, if you will, have given me a great deal of insight about some of the fundamental ways to prepare for interviews. And through this experience, I've incorporated that into my workshops and hope to share those insights with you to help in your success in pursuing consulting or corporate roles. As we kick off the workshops, there's really two things that I want to introduce to help establish our foundation. So, the first is a brief overview of what consulting is, in a way, what is a trusted advisor. Now, as much as that may seem obvious, I think it's helpful to have this understanding as a backdrop. Knowing what the job is one of the critical things to thinking about how your experience maps. So, I'm just going to talk about this for a few minutes and do so from my own individual experience. The second thing, then, that I'm going to talk about in the second introductory video is really the lay of the land, what it takes to get a consulting offer, what are some of the key skills. So we'll come to that in the second video. So, kicking off, then, being a trusted advisor. What does that mean? To think about that, I first want to just give a little bit of historical context and background because I think it's interesting, and consultants are very curious people. So many of you may recognize the name McKinsey. McKinsey and Company is one of the largest strategy consulting firms in the world today. And the firm originated from a gentleman, James McKinsey, that brought that firm to life back in the early 1900s, nearly 90 years ago. James McKinsey was an academic at the University of Chicago, and in addition to his teaching, he began advising companies. Through that, his services became recognized, and the term management consulting was coined as a new professional service, and this was the dawn of the consulting industry. Sometime later, the firm McKinsey and Company was actually reborn, and that is really the origin of the firm as it is today. Marvin Bower was the leader of that reshaping, and in his leadership, he established several core principles. I think what's interesting is that these are not only the principles that are used by McKinsey and Company, but I think in general, there are some commonalities across a variety of consulting firms. So, those core principles, one, it begins with the focus on the client interests. Those are, in fact, ahead of the interest of the firm. Clients are at the center of what consultants do. Secondly, when engagements are undertaken, the value delivered from those engagements should exceed the fees of the consultant. That seems very obvious, but it's often something that's talked about. What's the value that you're delivering as a consultant? There's also some details around the ownership structure. You'll find that many consulting firms are partnerships. I think more importantly, how I interpret that is that there's very much an apprentice model within the consulting firms. The partners are growing and establishing the business and managing the relationships with clients. And then along the way, they're cultivating the various professionals that they're hiring. And then I think another key attribute of the consulting industry that was established by Marvin Bower is the level of professional development that the consultants have. You probably are attracted to consulting because of this, not only through the work and the client experience, but also the specific training programs that the firms offer. The professionals are well developed. There's also a high degree of motivation of the type of individuals that go into consulting as a career. And so, thinking about this background, today the consulting industry has evolved and developed and grown in some ways. And in fact, when I think about just my own post MBA experience since I graduated in the year 2000, 15 years later, the consulting industry looks very different than it did at that time when I was a student. Firms have merged, they've come together. Some firms are no longer key players in the industry. And then today, particularly the large consulting firms, they're beginning to look more similar in terms of their service offerings. Firms like McKinsey are growing into the areas that often were previously occupied by more of an Accenture or PricewaterhouseCoopers or Deloitte. And those firms have grown their focus on strategy and some of the more senior board level initiatives. Also, the firms are increasing the variety of professionals that they look at, looking at students and working experienced professionals with a variety of backgrounds, whether it's technology or organizational change or implementation skills. So, in some ways, even though there may be fewer consulting firms because of consolidation, the variety of things that they're looking at has expanded. And then there's a reality that today, at the time that you're watching and listening to this video, the consulting industry is very robust. There's tremendous amounts of hiring going on. There's a lot of work and activity that the consulting firms are undertaking. And so it's really an exciting time to be looking at and entering this profession. Just speak a little bit more about the job of a consultant and begin to give you that insight. There's a few things that I'm going to talk about. This is an area that your interview preparation is going to focus on. It's one of the areas of attention, really talking to consultants, learning about the work that they do. So, a consultant is someone that has what we think of as a high impact job. It's particularly appealing to MBAs because of the attention of the issues that are worked on in consulting engagements. It's also a job that is very nebulous in a lot of ways. When I used to tell people that I was a consultant, they would often roll their eyes. That's something that's a very easily said term, but oftentimes it's not well understood. What is core is that as a consultant, you're advising a client, someone within the organization who's interested in taking some type of action. And at the core, consultants are there to enable clients to make decisions and then think about the planning and implementing of that decision. We know that as a consultant, you're not a decision maker. That's really the client and the organization that you're working with. And the job has multiple attributes. You're working for others. That relationship with a client is exciting and it's also complicated and challenging. You're helping your clients achieve the goals that they're setting out for their organization. And in many cases, The consultant is enabling the thinking about those goals rather than establishing them on behalf of the client. Consultants also provide specialized skills or expertise that the client's organization may, in many cases, be lacking. And it's really a job that focuses on influence, influencing decision making by bringing knowledge and expertise. But as a consultant, you don't necessarily have the authority to make change, but that change comes through the influence that you're able to create in the organization that you're working with. At the highest level, companies use consultants for a variety of reasons. On the one hand, being a trusted advisor to an executive is certainly a key role. This is particularly important for those that rise to the more senior ranks of a consulting firm. In many cases, particularly some of the partners, managing directors, they often serve as a career coach, career advisor, trusted advisor to the C suite executives of the organization. Of course, consultants are brought in to tackle business problems and provide solutions and to use various data sources and analytic approaches to help understand problems and what's really going on. And oftentimes, organizations lack certain expertise or they feel that they want some additional expertise. There's also a reality that sometimes executives are looking for a fresh perspective. They've heard a lot of things from their leadership team and from the members of their organization. They're looking for an outsider to come in and either validate that or take a different look at it. Maybe there's a different pathway to getting to the goals and objectives that they have. And unquestionably, because the type of professionals that go into consulting roles are incredibly smart individuals, sometimes companies are just looking for smart people to help them think about those problems. So, the job of the consultant then, what are you doing on a day to day basis? Many times it's focusing on big, expensive, impactful, game changing issues that companies are facing. There's also a variety of complex situations that companies are working their way through, and oftentimes they lack information or the information is overwhelming and it needs to be sifted through in a very straightforward and highly focused way. That's a lot of times what the nature of a consulting project is wrapped around. Consultants tackle a variety of issues. Some of those issues focus on acquisitions and how to integrate the organizations. There are companies that are not doing so well. They've gone into bankruptcy and how to restructure. We think about manufacturing and the operations and perhaps taking those facilities overseas. Those that focus on organizational matters may think about building the right base of employees to give companies a strategic advantage. Looking at the product portfolio and how to make sure that that's optimized and potentially building capabilities through acquisition. That's another potential project opportunity. Focusing on customers and how to better market products, how to become more competitive in a particular area, outsourcing, and then evaluating potential new market opportunities, maybe prioritizing financial investments in new technologies. The list could go on and on and on about the various problems that consultants are brought in to work with their clients on. It's exciting, it's interesting, it's one of the things that is attractive to professionals, this type of variety, and being able to work across organizations and across industries. For my own career, I had an opportunity to work in a variety of different industries. I think in many ways, I was the generalist in terms of industry experience, working with an airline, a retailer, a public transportation agency, a major transportation company, and also something very fun when Chicago was pursuing the 2016 Olympics. My firm was a part of that process. I can speak very personally to the exciting nature of the generalist approach and being able to work with a variety of clients, but also knowing that you have to focus some of your expertise as a consultant. In many cases, I was enabling organizations to really think about the business value that they were generating from these various strategic initiatives. And so defining the prioritization, the business case, thinking about the type of solutions and roadmap to go to market effectively or to execute in a successful way by minimizing risk. Those were some of the issues that I wrapped around during my consulting career. As we come to the conclusion of talking about what is a trusted advisor, there's really one singular goal of a consultant working with clients. That goal, very simply, impact the client's business in a positive way. The work that you do, that's the core focus. When you leave that engagement, what's the tangible impact to the client? This is an important concept in thinking about why you're motivated to pursue consulting. I think, secondly, it's also an important concept because when you speak about your background and your experience, you want to demonstrate that you're the type of individual who has a history of creating impact. The best predictor of future success is past success. So, this is something, because it's so important and so core to the job of consultants, they want to make sure that you're an individual with that type of track record.